Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible to each one of you. So, I hope my screen is visible to each one of you. So, let's start. So, our today's session will mainly be based on the concept of team collaboration. So, let's first start with the basic. What do you exactly understand by the term team collaboration? Team collaboration is nothing but it just means to work together as a whole team towards a certain goal. Let's just take the example of a cricket or a football match. In these matches, not a single player can win alone, right? You do need the support of your team members. You need to pass the ball. You need to trust each other's instincts to win the final game. So, in the workplace too, collaboration works in the same pattern. Clear communication, mutual support, and shared responsibility makes projects not only successful but also leads to the higher job satisfaction of each individual. So, in today's session, we will be mainly focusing on three key main areas. Number one, communication in Agile and Scrum. Number two, giving and receiving feedbacks. And number three, handling conflicts positively. So now that we have understood the importance of teamwork in a workplace, let's begin with the foundation of collaboration in modern workplaces, Agile Scrum communication, and see how Agile and Scrum teams actually make collaboration work through their clear communication. Before we start off with this particular slide, let's first understand what exactly Agile and Scrum means. Agile, from my perspective, is just a little sort of mindset of working in small steps instead taking a big giant step. It's just about working in flexibility and adjusting to changes quickly. In workplace, requirements often change on a day-to-day basis, right? So this agile term or concept helps us in dealing with that instead of resisting the changes. Let's understand it with a short example. Think of about planning a wedding, right? Instead of waiting till the last week while you to finalize everything for a wedding, you book the venue first, right? Then you book the caterers, then the decorators. Step by step so that you can check the progress with the family and the other members. That's what agility is. Just imagine if you had planned the whole wedding in a day and put everything in the last day. How messed up situation it might have been, right? So agile helps you evade those kind of situations. Now what exactly Scrum is? Scrum is nothing but a structured way of practicing agile. You can take it as a framework or you can say a rule book for practicing agility. It gives us rules like when to meet, how to plan, and how to review. Without Scrum, Agile could feel vague. It's just like cricket. Let's take the example of a cricket match, okay? So Agile is a sport, like how are sports? They're fast paced, they're flexible. So Scrum in Agile in this particular cricket term is nothing but the rule book. It shows us or tells us in a cricket match when to bowl, when to bat, or when to take a drinks break in a match. So, to conclude this particular sentence, Agile is nothing but a flexible way of working where projects are broken down into smaller chunks and adjusted as we move on. But Scrum is a framework that guides the teams on how to work in Agile. The idea is pretty simple. Instead of waiting for long mails and endless documents, Agile values quick and direct conversations. These direct conversations or direct talks builds the trust and avoids misunderstandings in a team. Let's take a small real life example. For example, there was a remote IT team which was constantly getting delayed because of miscommunication in emails. So they planned and introduced a quick morning video call every day between the teammates. Just this one change helped them finish the projects before the deadline. Could you see the change how a direct conversation can bring to a project? I would like to ask you all how many times all of you or the experienced professionals out here might have faced your projects getting delayed just because of endless back and forth emails. So, to put this agile communication into action, one of the most powerful tools is the daily stand up. Let's see how this works. Before we proceed to this particular slide, let me explain to you what exactly daily stand up is. Daily stand up is nothing but a quick 15-minute team meeting where the team members share their updates, share the plans, and the blockers. It is a short 15-minute team meeting on a team break on a Zoom or on team office places where each member answers three main questions. What did I did is yesterday? What I will be doing today? And do I have any blockers that is stopping me from moving forward with the work that I have been assigned with? Standing keeps these meetings short and energetic. The point of daily stand up is to stay aligned and identify the problems early. Let's take an example to understand what exactly daily stand up is. Just like in a hospital, let's take the example of a hospital. In an hospital, when in the morning sessions, when come, they take a quickly small and share little updates with each other or on every patient, right? Like in the morning, when the doctor comes for a checkup in the hospitals, they give a 15 to 20 minutes or like 1 to 2 minutes of update on each patient before they start the rounds. That it's what exactly daily stand up is. It's short, sharp, and clear. So, to give an example on workplace terms, for example, there's a particular team member who had said that yesterday, who had mentioned like what work they did and what they're doing. Yesterday, I texted the login page. Today, I'll work on payment. What is their blocker? I need to update the design files. So, what exactly daily stand up here means? It is breaking down your long task into short one liners, which not only gives the team leader clarity, but also puts you in a place where you are also clear with what exactly work you had done, what you need to do, and what issue needs to be resolved. So, for example, if somebody has a bigger topic or some bigger issue that needs to be resolved, one should not look up at these stand-ups. These goes into a parking lot. What does this parking lot means? This parking lot is nothing but a short time or like it is a particular phase after the stand-up session, which is particularly dedicated to address these issues that the members might be facing. It's mainly done to respect the small stipulated amount of time which is designed for the stand-ups. So, if I need to give an example for the new professionals, this small stand up is just like your daily check-in with your manager. It's short and to the point and crisp. So now that we are done with daily stand-ups, and once these daily updates are aligned with the team managers and the teammates, the next step is planning what the team will be working on in a sprint. Now, what exactly is a sprint? A sprint is nothing but a short fixed period, usually 1 to 2 weeks, where the team commits to finishing specific tasks. In sprint planning, the product owner shares the priorities, the team estimates the efforts, and together They agree on what realistically can be delivered. It's like if we take a real life example. For example, if you're saying that I need to renovate the house in 3 months, it sounds such a big task, right? But if you break it into smaller tasks, like for this week, we will focus on renovating the kitchen. The next week, we will renovate the living room. So these weeks are what a sprint exactly is. If we talk on workspace terms, for example, there is a team that has been assigned three tasks: login page, profile page, and testing. They need to do these three particular tasks. So, what does this team do to get an effective result? They commit to the login and testing in the sprint, leaving the profile for the next sprint. As I already said, sprint it is a stipulated amount of time, maybe a week, maybe a month, where short tasks have been separated so that the details can be provided to the team more effectively. This helps the workload keep being realistic. If I share an example for the working professionals who are attending this session, there are senior members who have been in your workspace who always want to do it all right, who always want to complete it like, no, we need to do this in 3 months, do this or do that, but we need to complete this project in 3 months, right? But they do not set up small breakouts which can help all the teammates to align together and finish the project properly. This is what sprint planning does. Realistic planning in sprint or sprint planning avoids stress and ensures quality delivery of the projects. So now that we are over with the sprint, let's pause to reflect through retrospective. What is retrospective? Retrospective in a meeting is where the team looks back into the project and asks what went well, what didn't go well, and what can be improved next time. The focus in retrospective is on the process, not the blame, like, oh, you were the one who did delay in the project, and due to this, that happened. It's just what people do to get onto their strong deadlines. So, let's explain this with a short example. A team's stand ups were dragging too long. So, what did they do? In a retrospective manner, they decided to add a 10-minute timer. Let me repeat the example once again if you're not clear. There was a team, these stand-ups or these little tasks that they are doing, they were getting dragged on for too long. Like if they're taking up for a week, was getting extended to more than 15 days or 12 days or something. But what did they do for this retrospective concept? They decided to add a 10-minute timer. What did this do? From this time, the meeting started to become sharp and effective. So now that we are over with understanding how retrospective help in workspaces, let's move on to understand how can we participate effectively in Scrum meetings. Let's see some simple tips. So the 5 golden tips for Scrum are: one should first of all prepare before a meeting. One should just, before a meeting is started or for a Scrum meeting, you should just be reviewing all of your tasks that you had done yesterday or the blockers you might have so that you're also up to date when the manager asks you about what had you done the previous day. Number 2, be concise. One should only be full story about what they did the before day itself. Just imagine the scrum meeting is for like about 10 to 15 minutes and the team member is taking like almost whole of its time explaining what they did and not did. Just imagine how long the quick update meetup would take. Number 3, listen actively. This is an extremely important point. Once, when people are participating in these particular meetings, one should always listen actively. In this way, you are not only able to understand the other's challenges, but are also able to avoid the challenges the other teammates might face, and and how these challenges can help you avoid the challenges in your own task. Number 4, use video when remote. What does this mean? When you are in remote meetings, try to do a face to face video call or a video meeting. Why do I say this? Because one, number one, when you're in a remote setting, we already in today's generation, we have a very small attention span. So having the face to face video meetings can help to improve the communication and also boost the understanding between the people who are into the meeting. Speak up. The final point is speak up. I think there are certain questions. I will be addressing all of your questions at the end of the session. I hope that's all right with each one of you. So, to move ahead, the fifth point is speak up. What exactly this means? The input helps the team succeed. Whenever, when we are in a group meeting, we always think that speaking up or not speaking up, when, like, if I talk about myself, I'm an extremely shy person. So I tend to avoid speaking up when I'm in a group meeting or in a group call. What does it do? It does nothing but provides and creates more troubles for yourself. Just imagine while you are in a team meeting or a call, you are out there, everybody is discussing their issues, the challenges that they are facing. And even though you are having certain challenges, you're out there sitting like, no, let's leave it at that. I will talk with the team manager afterwards. This does nothing but delays the process of the whole point for which the meeting was set up for. I hope I'm clear with all these 5 golden tips that one can use for Scrum settings. If you want, you can take the screenshot for this and try to apply it at your own real life world. So, moving forward, now let's see. Even though there are people who follow these particular golden tips for Scrum communication, even with these best of practices, people will be facing the communication challenge. Just a second. Okay, so you need me to repeat the retrospective part again, right? S- Okay, I hope I'm audible to each one of you. Yeah. So, retrospective. What exactly retrospective is? A retrospective in a meeting is a point where a team looks back, like if there is a particular meeting or a recent project you might have completed. In this, a team particularly looks back and asks together or introspective or individually that what went well with this project that led to its successful execution, what didn't go well with the project, which might have led to certain issues in the project deadlines, or and the third one being what can be improved to get better results the next time. So putting the focus on these 3 points helps you understand or retrospect or think what exactly would have gone wrong or right with the project, and the right ones or the right issues that we have faced in the last one can be repeated or can be enhanced in a better way for the next project that you would be dealing with. I hope I'm clear with the concept. Okay, sorry for the disruption. Moving forward towards coming towards the communication challenges the people might face, even though even though they're following all the 5 golden tips for the communication part. Okay, so yeah, sorry for the disruption. Just a minute, guys. Yes, yeah. Sorry for the disruption. I'm extremely sorry for it. So, moving forward, let's see what exactly the common communication challenges a team might face while they are going through a meeting or something. Number one being the non-verbal clues. So, what are non-verbal clues exactly? While we are on a meeting, which especially in a remote setting, we tend to just no, avoid to switch on our camera for our own personal issues, right? So I would suggest that while we are on a remote setting specifically, one should be switching on their videos to enhance the communication, because the face-to-face communication gives the clarity on what the front person might be saying. Like if a manager and a team member are communicating, and if the video is switched on, for example, if the manager is instructing the team member about a certain task or anything as such, the team member might be a shy person and they might not be able to understand what they're saying. So they might just crunch up their face or show some reactions on their face. In this pattern, the manager might be able to understand that, oh, the team member is not able to understand what I am exactly speaking. Let me simplify it further. So, following these non-verbal cues, such as having a clear language or a clear pronunciation or using video calls more effectively, helps better management of these remote teams. Second one, meetings, long meetings. What does this mean? Just imagine you are in a meeting with your teammates and also your team manager, and it's 1 p.m. in the afternoon. And the meeting goes on long and long for long hours, such as 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. And it's the most crucial time in the afternoon, right? There are people who might feel a little bit tired or something, like it's the most peak hours of your time, and investing too much of hours onto and putting too much of focus can make a person tired. So the best part of overcoming this challenge is to have a strict timer for these particular meetings. Like it is going to be a half an hour meeting. It not only helps all the team members stay energetic throughout the whole meeting, but also provides better updates and results in the project. Third one being silent members. What does this mean? As I already shared my own particular example from my own real life, that I am quite a shy person and I tend not to open up and share my issues while I'm on to a meeting. So, what can a manager or a scrum master in here can do? In this, they can ask each person one by one, encouraging them to say that they are allowed to express whatever they feel. And this can only be done by a manager, right? Because they are at a position and a power where they can allow every member to shine in their own way. So, now that we are done with it, I would like to ask you all questions. Like, how many of you would have seen your teammates stay silent even though they might have gotten such useful input, right? Just imagine the value they might have lost just not by sharing what they are feeling. So, having good team managers who promotes each of the team members can help to overcome not only the bonding between the team members, but also provide a better results in the project that you might be working for. So, now that we have seen the challenges, let's understand our role in agile communication. As I already said, agile is like a team sport. Everyone in an agile situation needs to have a role. So, what do you think can be a particular role in communication? Number one, you need to stay engaged in discussions. What does it mean? Just imagine your teammate might be sharing a very critical issue or an task that they might be stuck with, and you are out there not focusing on what they are speaking and are deviated from the particular thing. Just imagine how much loss it might create. Second, you can speak clearly so others are able to understand. Pronunciation is extremely important when you are in remote settings. Keeping Having a clear communicate pronunciation not only helps everybody understand what exactly you are trying to share to everyone, but also helps you get a better result. Number three, collaborate openly. When you are in a collaborative setting, try to have an open mind and collaborate with every person or every other certain teammate or team member, even though they might just have little knowledge in comparison to yours. You might be thinking, like, oh, this person does not know as much as me. Why should I collaborate with them? But you never know what the future holds, right? So if you might be thinking, like, oh, this person doesn't know much, but they might be good in some other certain space where you might be lacking at. So collaborating openly is extremely important. One should communicate early to avoid surprises. What does this mean? Communicating early or timely helps to avoid a lot of tasks or issues that might come while you are onto the final stages of your projects. Just imagine if there was a certain issue or a bug that you might have faced in your project, and you just decided that, oh, it's such a minor stuff. Let me tell this to my teammates or my manager afterwards. We will look into it afterwards. It doesn't look like a big issue. But when you are reaching towards the final stages of your project, you see that, oh my goodness, this particular little bug, which you were thinking was such a minor issue, has turned out to be a big issue and the project is getting delayed. So, you see the reason why I'm telling you one should communicate early. Communicating early helps to avoid these sudden issues and the misunderstandings that can create within a team when they're performing on a project. Next, accept feedback to grow and adapt to changes. What does these two sentences mean? Accepting feedback to grow. When we take feedback, we always tend to think that, oh, this feedback is not what, like, most of us do have a feeling that feedback is not exactly a feedback, more like a passive criticism. Like, the front person is trying to put out my negative points just in the name of feedback. But no, it's not the reality, right? Feedback is something that I feel everyone, each one of us, do need in our life, whether it's professional or personal. Whether in professional terms, getting a good and a clear feedback helps you in growth, whereas in personal life, it helps you in becoming a better person for the future. Finally, adapting to changes. What exactly is that? In today's world, where time and the technical space changes on a rapid state, I feel getting adaptable to changes that happen in a workplace on a day-to-day basis is the best way a person can have a happier job satisfaction and also have a good growth scale. For example, let's take an example in a cricket match. This example, if a fielder in the cricket match doesn't shout mine while they're catching the ball, and there can also be another fielder who is also running to catch the ball. Just imagine both of these fielders are running to catch the same ball, and while they see each other, they tend to miss the ball. And what happens? The catch gets dropped, right? In the workplace, too, not communicating properly and keeping silence also creates communication. So, speaking of growth, one of the strongest tools for improvement in teams is feedback. Let's explore why it matters. As I already said, feedback is the backbone of personal and team growth. What does it help us to do? It helps us improve our skills in workplace. It helps to build trust within team members. And also, it helps to move work smoothly together. So, why do you think a feedback might matter in a certain condition? Let's understand it with a short story. For example, there was a girl named Sarah who was a young professional at a workspace. She had a huge fear about feedback. She always thought it meant negative criticism. But due to it, she always tried to stay away or tried to dissociate herself whenever a feedback was provided to her by her manager or maybe by her teammates. Due to this, she used to commit a lot of mistakes into the project that she was in. And also, her image in the workspace also started to get less. But once she understood the fact that feedback is nothing but a extremely beautiful way through which a person can enhance and be better at their job role, she started treating this feedback as a learning process. And what were the results? She improved extremely fast and even got promoted at her job. So, everyone, please remember feeding is just not pointing fingers, it's just a way to lift each other up. So, if I take an example for the freshers who are in their session, so the people like you who are just starting out, feedback may feel like your manager might be criticizing you, right? It's your first job and you don't know the pros and cons and do's and don'ts of the workplace. And just at that point, your manager tries to give feedback, but you just assume it as some negative criticism. What happens? You just become a person who might not have a mindset of growth, and also you tend to lack in the skills and are not able to grow. But if you take these feedbacks positively, and you would see that in reality these feedbacks are just a ladder for you to become or grow in your skills or in your workspace, and also these help to succeed you faster in your workspace. So so coming to the negative criticism, as we have seen till now that feedback is effective, but what if there are feedback that is not effective, right? So let's see which kind of feedbacks makes our skills or workspace or professional life useful. What makes a feedback effective? A good feedback has three main qualities: being specific, being timely, and being balanced. What does being specific means? Being specific means giving exact what issue the person might be facing and being not vague. What does it mean? If I say to my teammate, like if I'm a manager and I say to my teammate, like, oh, your work is bad, it sounds so rude, right? The team member who might just be a fresher in their job might feel demotivated and might never try to get better at their skill because they will always have the thought that, oh, my manager has said this skill of mine or this particular task of mine is bad, and they might feel demotivated and not grow. But instead of that, if we say to that particular fresher that add more data in section 3 of your report, for example, as such, so then this way the team member is able to understand at what space or what particular point they are exactly lacking and can get better at their job. Number 2, timely. What does it mean? Giving feedback exactly after a session or a meeting is extremely important. Just imagine if you're giving a person feedback after 2 months of the meeting or the project has happened. The person might have also forgotten about it and would have just, yeah, whatever, would have just said that and move forward, right? But if just after a meeting you say a person like, oh, this particular side of yours was bad, you can improve it. This feedback will not only help them grow, but will also help the bonding between you and that team member grow and become positive. Number three, balanced. One must be sure about the fact that feedback needs to be balanced. It cannot be extremely positive and it cannot be extremely negative. You need to mix the positive statements with the areas the person needs to improve. For example, as I already said, if a person gave a small presentation on a little project that they are planning or the team is planning to move forward with. But you, as a manager, felt there were points in the particular person's communication or the particular technical jargons that they were expressing were wrong or not right in the place. So, once that meeting or the session gets over, you can have a one on one with that particular person and say that, oh, you gave such a nice presentation, but the areas you can try to improve in the areas such as communication, or you can try to be better at the technical jargon that you're using. Taking a real life example, for example, there's a person named John, okay, and his manager told him, your report is clear and easy to read. Next time, add more charts to make it even better. What does this particular statement define? This particular statement is clear, polite, and it motivates improvement. Once John hears this particular feedback from his manager, not only he is motivated to do better, but also he improves in the parts that he is lacking, and we can see a better improvement in the project that they are working with. So, now that we are done with the feedback, I would like to ask you all a question. Think about the last feedback all of you might have got. Was that feedback specific, timely, and balanced? Or was it just a vague one, confusing, and was an extremely negative feedback? So now that we are over with the feedback one, the question is, how do we give feedback politely, right? So for that, we have a simple 5-step framework. First of all, let me tell you all. When giving feedback, the tone with which you give this feedback matters a lot. If we are too harsh, people might shut down and think of it as a negative criticism. But if we stay silent, nothing improves. So, here's a 5-step formula that you can use while giving feedback. Number one, describe the situation, as in when or where it happened. For example, if after, like as I already mentioned before, try to give the feedback after the meeting has been done. So once the meeting has been done, you can give the person feedback like, okay, so while you were explaining the slide number 3, the point number 2 that you were discussing with, there were some issues with it. But your overall presentation was good, but try to improve in this particular area. So what did this prove? It gives the person a clarity of the situation, or like, okay, so this was what I was lacking with while they are getting the feedback from you. Number 2, explain the behavior, what the person did without judgment. What does this mean in this particular space? For example, if a person is giving a presentation, there are people who tend to overuse their hands or gestures as such while giving a presentation. So you can ask the front person that you you can describe the situation to the front person, telling them the pros and cons of why using extreme hand gestures at a professional meeting or a presentation can cause a discrepancy, and tell them to improve and try to do better by providing them certain solutions how they can do better. This can help the person understand that you want their betterment without having a fear that, oh, this person who was giving me the feedback was judging me. Number 3, share the impact. What? Share the impact. How did it affect you or others? What does it mean? So while you share the impact to the person whom you are giving the constructive feedback to, it can help them understand, like there are people who might think that, why are you giving me this feedback? What does it help? Or like, why does it even matter? So if certain person's communication or any issue they might have faced for which you need to provide them the feedback of, if that particular thing is impacting the whole team, you can explain this person with a polite tone, like, this issue, or this particular issue that you did, or this thing that we you did in this particular meeting, this can create a bad impact to the whole team and can lead the project into a very unsuccessful failure. So once the front person understands that you're trying for the betterment of the team and also theirs and want the whole team to move forward together, the front person would be able to accept these constructive feedback more easily. Next one, invite dialogue. What does this mean? Once you're providing a constructive feedback, feedback is just like in communication. It should not be a one-way order form. When you're giving in constructive feedback, try to also ask for the perspective as to if they are trying to evade it or resisting your feedback. You can ask for the perspective and try to listen to their point of view. Number fifth and the last point, you can suggest next steps. As I said before, while you're providing these constructive feedback points, you can also ask them that, or suggest them, like, since these are your issues, you can work on it by following this and this, or like following X and Z steps, so that they are also having a clear memory of how they can be better in the issues that they are facing with. And this can help the team, not only the individual but also the whole team, to move forward together. For example, to give you an example, in yesterday's meeting, if I am a manager and I need to give a particular feedback to a teammate, how would I give? It goes like this. In yesterday's meeting, when you interrupted, it made it hard for others to share. How do you see it? Maybe next time you can wait until they finish. So what does this manager is doing to this particular teammate? They are doing exactly all the 5 steps that have been mentioned in this particular slide. They are describing the situation. What is the situation? The meeting that was held yesterday. And what did? They interrupted a certain person. So what did it had an impact on the others? It made it hard for the others to share the ideas. Invite dialogue. So the manager asked the teammate, like, how do you see this? How do you see this particular issue? And the final one being suggesting them next steps, which is maybe next time wait until they finish. So all the 5-step framework is extremely described in this one particular statement that the manager says to the teammate of this. You can take this particular screenshot and try to use it in your real life when you try to give a constructive feedback to a teammate or anyone you know of. So now that we have seen how to give feedback, let's see how to receive it. Because most of us tend to just evade the feedback thinking it criticism, right? So let's explore this particular concept. Receiving feedback gracefully. So, receiving feedback, I personally feel, is extremely harder than giving a feedback. Most people tend to get defensive when they're receiving a feedback. But the secret to receiving a feedback is a feedback. Try to take the feedback as nothing but like a gift. So, here's how you can handle while you try to receive feedback from others. Number one, try to listen carefully without interrupting. The first and foremost issue we all face while we receive feedback is we tend to get defensive or get offended whenever a person starts to give us feedback. Like, oh, I did not say it like that. Oh, I did not mean it like that. So, the best way to receive feedback gracefully is number one, to listen carefully what the front person is trying to say without interrupting them. In this way, you also get a clarity on what exactly the front person is trying to share with you. Number two, ask questions if something is unclear. So, if you have received a feedback from someone and you're not exactly clear what that have meant or what exactly you need to work on, you can ask them a reply back question that, I'm not clear with exactly what is the issue, or uh, exactly clear with what had been the impact on others. Can you just describe it once again? Number three, and the most main and the foremost thing that I think everybody should focus on, don't try to take the feedback personally. Let's all remember that we are in a workspace, and the person who is trying to give you the feedback is just trying to help you become a better person at your workspace. And it's not a personal feedback. So please try to not to take these feedbacks personally. And the last point, one should focus on the learning. When we take feedback, we tend to avoid the learning that it provides. Just imagine somebody gives you a feedback, you work on it, and you would see that the negative points that you might have been facing with gets solved very gracefully. So let's take an example to understand this particular point. There's a person called Mike. Whenever he was being given a feedback by his manager, he always felt that he was getting criticized by him. So, when he started asking his manager when he was receiving the feedback which he thought were criticism, that can you help me understand how I can do better? This particular conversation turned this defensiveness into a coaching instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, it has been such a big criticism. I would like to tell this to all the freshers who have joined this particular session, that having this mindset to take the feedback gracefully not only helps you grow faster, but also gives you a good job satisfaction at your workspace. For the seniors and the professionals, it also, I would like to say that this particular concept of receiving the feedback sets an example for the team. It shows maturity in handling the feedback. So, to practice this, the team often do role plays. Let's see how we can apply it even in a muted session. Normally, at this stage, we would do a role play where two people would be practicing giving and receiving feedback. Okay, yeah. So, in this particular slide, you can do one thing while you try to practice how to take or receive feedback. You can pair up with a teammate of yours and use the 5 step framework, like which are like, if you are the one who is giving the feedback, you need to describe the situation the front person needs to have the feedback on. You can explain the behavior at which they were lacking. You can share the impact. You can invite dialogue, and you can suggest the next steps to them. But if you're the one who has been receiving the feedback, try to listen carefully to the front person who is giving the feedback. Try to ask them questions if you're not clear with what exactly they wanted to convey in the feedback. Make sure not to take the feedback personally, and also mainly focus on the learning aspect of the feedback. So, moving forward, moving forward, feedback from my perspective is never easy. So, let's look at some common challenges a person might face while they're receiving a feedback or providing a feedback. Number one, fear of hurting feelings. Well, while you are providing a feedback, one always has a fear of hurting the feelings, due to which there are people who, even though want the betterment of the team member, might feel their words can come off as harsh or unkind, due to which the person who needs to get the feedback wouldn't be able to understand what exactly is being said. So what can one do while they are trying to deliver a constructive feedback? They can use kind and clear words instead of using direct speech such as like, oh, this was bad or this has been bad. You can try to paraphrase it into using nice words such as like, your overall presentation was nice, but the areas you can improve are this and this. Number 2, taking feedback personally. So while we receive feedback, as I already discussed earlier, we tend to take these feedback personally, as thinking that the front person is trying to attack on our own personality, not on the skill or the issue that we might have faced or created into that particular meeting. So we need to make sure that the person who is trying to provide us the feedback is talking about the behavior we were facing with, not our personality. Number 3, providing a vague feedback or an unclear feedback. So there are people, when somebody provides you a feedback without stating what exactly might have went wrong or something as such, they tend to be like, how do I say this? There are managers who are like, okay, so Ria, your issue was this, and this was not good. Your the bug that you were talking about into the project was not right. I did not like it. It wasn't a clear feedback, right? So if in turn, if I am Ria, if I ask for specific example, like, so at what part of the point of the slide or the presentation I was speaking did you find the issue? If could you elaborate on that? So once this to and fro conversation happens in a feedback, it becomes a clearer image of what exactly the issue is, and it can be dealt with effectively. For example, let's take the example of an Emma. Emma once got a feedback from her boss, like, do better next time. What do you all feel? Exactly the same. Emma felt lost. But instead of being upset at the feedback that she received from her boss, she asked him back that, sir, can you please exactly tell me at what point do I need to improve? So the boss here clarified that you need to add more data in your analysis section. Now she has a clear action on what she needs to work with. So, how many would of you would have received vague feedback in your lives, in maybe in your colleges or in your workspaces, like be better or work faster? So, to the people who have been managers or the ones who would become managers in the future, I would just ask you all, try to be polite the next time when you provide feedback to your teammates. So, feedback isn't a one time event, right? It is a journey. So let's see how that looks. While we receive feedback, we tend to become nervous while giving or receiving it, right? Like, of course, the ones who are receiving it are more nervous. But even while you're trying to give a feedback, you are scared or nervous. Oh, you might be hurting the front person's emotions. But with practice, one can learn to do it politely and to accept the feedback openly. Over time, the providing and receiving feedback becomes a natural part of the teamwork process. Let's just take a real life example. So, let's take an example of exercising, okay? At first, lifting weights or trying to go on for walks or jogging might feel painful and tiring. But as you keep on practicing every day with dedication, with trust that you would be getting your results, your muscles grow stronger if you are at the gym. Your health and immunity gets better if you're jogging or walking on a day to day basis. So feedback works in the just the same pattern. At first, this feedback seems uncomfortable, but with continuous practice of giving, genuine feedback and receiving it without taking it personally builds strength and growth within the team. So now let's shift to another big area that impacts teamwork: conflict at work. Let's first understand why conflicts happen. Conflict simply means disagreement. It usually happens at workspace mainly because of different opinions or different personalities, misunderstandings, or unclear roles or responsibilities. When you are at a workspace, different opinions are bound to come. You and your teammate might think of a particular idea differently. Different personalities. Well, in a workspace, or especially when you work in a global workspace, there are gonna be people from different space of life with different personalities. Even though if you're working at a small startup company with a very few number of employees, there are gonna be people with extremely contrasting personalities, due to which conflicts might arise as to the personality changes or the personality fights that a person can have. Like, if I am a person who feels that certain, I'm a person who believes in putting work in a deadline basis and breaking it down and doing it one after the other. I believe in structurally working. But my colleague or my teammate might not feel that structured or working in a stepwise pattern will work. They might be a person who might be a spontaneous person. So, due to this, there can be conflicts that arise between us. Next one being misunderstandings. When you're working in a workplace, misunderstandings are bound to happen. And the last one being unclear roles and responsibilities. When you're provided a role or a responsibility that you need to work on this and that, if that's unclear, so definitely there are gonna be internal conflicts that are bound to happen within teammates or the manager and the team and the co-workers. So let's take an example of a workplace situation. There are two team members, okay, and they are arguing over deadlines because the manager never provided them a clear date. So, what exactly it is here? Conflict, from my perspective, is not exactly always bad. It shows people do care about the work. But key is how we handle this particular conflict. For freshers, this conflict might be as small as who owns this particular task that has been assigned. For experienced professionals, the conflict might be the resource fights between departments. Either of the ways between the fresher or the professionals, handling this conflict calmly makes a difference. So, what do you think would happen if we ignore this conflict instead of dealing with it? Let's see it. Ignoring conflict has big costs: missed deadlines, low team spirit, poor productivity, and even financial loss. Missed deadlines. What does this particular mean? Missing deadlines, while you, like as I explained, like the two teammates were fighting among themselves or were having a conflict among themselves just because the manager didn't provide a clearer deadline for the project that they were working on, due to which, since they were dealing with the conflicts for such a long time, they missed the deadline which was provided to them, as none of them knew what exactly was the deadline for the project. Low team spirit. Avoiding conflict or ignoring conflict can result to low team spirit. How do you ask? If there is a continuous conflict that is happening between the teammates or the team members, and there isn't a particular step that has been taken to deal with this conflict, it results in the teammates and growing negative feelings with about each other, due to which there can be a loss of team morale, which is extremely important when you work in a group project. Third, financial loss. Of course, when you miss the deadlines, you also tend to miss the clients. Like, if you miss the deadlines, like a client might have asked for the project by 12 p.m. in 9 September. but you did not have a clarity on what exactly was the deadline about. You and your teammate were working on this particular project, but due to your internal conflicts, you weren't able to submit this particular project on time to this particular client, due to which you lost this client of yours. And losing this client results in a huge financial loss. Like, it's just not one or two clients, right? Every client comes with a good financial growth or provides genuine fi- finance for the particular company. So losing a client can make the company or the workspace suffer huge losses. So let's understand with a real life story. A manager noticed tension in his team but assumed it would fix itself instead. Rep- Repeating the situation once again, there was a manager in an organization who had noticed that there was certain tension between the team members in his team, but he just assumed it that the conflict would be fixed by itself. What do you think would have been the result for this particular conflict? Nothing, but the problem just grew worse and worse each day, and one of his best employees in the team quit the job. What did it happen? The team lost both the talent and the morale, and also the future growth the company or the team might have faced. So, I would like to ask you all a question. How many of you would have seen talented colleagues of yours quit, not just because of your work pressure, but because of conflicts that were just never resolved? So, now that we are done with seeing the cost of ignoring these conflicts, how do we actually resolve these conflicts in a healthy way? Let's explore 5 strategies to resolve these conflicts in a healthy manner. Number 1, avoiding when you should know when to step back. What does it mean? While you are in a conflicting situation, one should always try to be the bigger person and try to step back if it's a smaller issue or emotions are too high between you and the person who is in the conflicting situation. For example, there are people who try to pass certain jokes which you might feel offensive, but there are times you one should know when to let it go. So you can just let a minor joke pass instead of making the issue bigger and creating conflicts within you and your teammate. But of course, but when it's a joke or if it's certain comment that has been passed which is actually disturbing, one should not avoid it. One should address those particular conflicts, because you also need to address the ones which are issue or creating distance between you and your teammate. Second, competing. What does it mean? One should stand firm if the issue is very important. What does it particularly mean? Standing your ground. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. Yeah, moving forward. So we were discussing about the 5 common approaches that we can take to resolve the conflict. Number first that we discussed was avoiding. One should know when to step back when they are in a smaller conflict situation, when they feel that letting this particular issue go can be beneficial for the organization and also for you and your teammate. Second one, competing. Standing firm as the issue is very important. One should know that where to stand firm and stand your ground for the issues that are very important. For example, there are certain teammates and you are a team manager. There are certain teammates of yours who are not following the safety rules or certain guidelines while going through a project. But you as a manager should insist and put a strong ground on making sure that every team member follows the safety rules or the guidelines very strictly. Of course, there are going to be minor conflicts like between certain team members, such as like why do we need it or certain questions as such. But you as a manager should stand your ground strong into emphasizing the fact that it is extremely needed to follow the guidelines or the safety rules that you are going to follow for the project. Number 3, accommodating. One should know how to accommodate while they are going or when they are in a conflicting situation. One should know when to give in to maintain the peace of the overall environment of the workspace when the relationship matters more. How do you explain this with an example? For example, there can be a colleague of yours whose design idea might not be up to your mark, but you can accommodate to their ideas or the designs by agreeing to the design choice to avoid any tension that may arise between you and them. Next, compromising. To resolve a conflict in a healthy manner, compromising is extremely necessary. Both sides need to give a little bit of effort to solve a conflict so that you and your mate who is going through the conflict can reach a middle ground and resolve the conflict. So, for example, how to provide an example for this particular point. If if you want a particular deadline for, like, you want 3 days to complete a particular task that has been assigned to you, but your teammate with whom you are collaborating on with the same task, they want it to be done within 1 day. So what you can do, both of you can come to a middle ground and decide that, okay, so let's do one thing. Let's complete this project or this particular task within 2 days. So what does it do? Neither the days that you want, like you want 3 days, is being emphasized here. Neither the point that they wanted to be done in 1 day is being emphasized. So both of you are able to reach a middle ground, which in turn helps the project to become a better one. Fifth and the last one, collaborating. Collaborating in here means working together to find a win-win situation. What does this statement mean? When you work together with a team, for example, if you and your teammate are facing any conflict or having certain tension within you and them, you can ask the other teammates who are present in the team to all just sit down together and listen to both of your issues, and all of you together can come to a certain solution which can help to resolve the conflict. So, these are the 5 main points through which we can resolve a conflict very effectively. For this collaborating situation, you can take an example of there can be two departments who would be having a conflict or a tension or a fight in regards to their ideas, but they combine together and sit down together and come together with a better approach, which includes both of the teams or the departments' ideas, in which results in a better solution or better result for the project you all are working with. Now that we know the strategies as to how to handle the conflict, let's move on to provide you some golden tips how to resolve the conflicts effectively. Number one should always listen actively. One should first listen actively and truly understand the other person's perspective before responding or giving your own reply back. Second, controlling emotions. One should know how and when to stay calm, even if the other person is heated or in a angry mood. Number 3, focus on the problem, not on the person. It's an extremely important point that one needs to put a focus on. While you're into a conflict, try to make the conflict issue just about the problem that you both are facing with. You need to criticize the issue that you both are facing, not the individual you are facing with. Number four, find common goals. While you're facing the conflict, try to remind everyone that this is a professional workspace and all of you are working on the same team towards the same goal. So we can understand it with a simple code that conflict can be just like fire. It is uncontrolled. It can burn the team down. But if it is controlled, it can power an engine and run any vehicle or machine effectively. An example that I can provide you with, like there were two developers who were fighting over a coding style. The manager reminded them that both of you want the same thing, a bug free product for the client. So, hearing this, both the developers put their own time into, like, yes, the manager was right. We are working towards the same concept. So, instead of arguing after that, they started to sit down, discuss their conflicts, and after that, started to help each other. This result delivered efficiently to the client. So, now let's see how a real team turned conflict into a success story. Before I move on to the next, just a second. Okay, so let's see an example. Let me tell you an example of how a team solved a particular conflict effectively in their workspace. A team once had a conflict about a workload. Some members felt overworked while others felt underutilized in the work or the project that they were working with. So, instead of ignoring this problem, the Scrum Master organized an open talk. What did everyone do? The manager, instead of ignoring the conflicts that were arising into the team, they organized an open talk where everyone shared their concerns honestly and truthfully. After hearing everybody's concerns, the tasks that were provided to them got redistributed more fairly with clear rules. So, what do you think would have been the results? The conflict that was arising got solved, the productivity which was getting delayed got increased, and the trust between the team members and the manager improved. This shows that when a conflict is handled right, it can always and actually strengthens a team in a workspace. So, thank you everyone for your time and attention. I hope you all carry these lessons into your projects and apply them in your day to day work.